Liz Scully. Now, I don't know if anybody saw my LinkedIn post, but I did liken Liz to if we'd been at school together, which is not too far away from the truth, we would have been the naughty children at the back of the room, having a giggle and being cheeky and naughty. Because she has an infectious sense of humor, but also she sees the world from a slightly different perspective. And I like that. I love that. So when we first met, it was kind of love at first sight. We get on so well, and I love what she's doing. And she's not beyond telling me off when I'm not doing the right thing. I love that too. And I really enjoy the fact that she is a master of masterminds, but also her background gives her such a different perspective to your average Joe. So Liz Scully, also known as the evil genius, I hand over to you now for your talk on values and see where that goes.
Thank you very much. I'd like to share my slides. Do I need to be a co-host for that?
Yes, indeedy. Let's get
Hold,
that done.
please. Excellent. Happy to be here. Hello, I'm Liz, and I used to work in film. I used to work in Hollywood VFX films. So if you get nothing else out of what I'm going to share today, you will hopefully look at those sorts of films and realize, blimey, there really is a lot more to those than I realized. So I'm just going to go to my slides. Bear with me. Good Lord, so many choices. Here we go. Right, good. Can we see that? Can I get a thumbs up from somebody? Yes, are we good? Excellent. Okay, so are you sharing your true value? Now, if that makes you roll your eyes or think, good Lord, this is going to be dull, hang on to your hats. It is going to be hopefully much more interesting than that. So this is the question that I will ask you to consider as we talk about the stuff here. I'm going to whiz through this quite quickly, but this I would like to for you to think about in a breakout room. So are you sharing your true value clearly? We often think we are. In fact, I thought I was till I put this particular thing together, but we can do a lot better. And as mentioned, at the very least, you'll know a bit more about VFX, which, that could do you no harm. So there really are reasons. There are so many names at the end of the credits. In most visual effects films, there's about 2,000 people, for including the crew and all of the visual effects people, which is what I used to do. It's after you finish shooting, you do all the other stuff. So I worked in that world for 20 years. And I'm now a business strategist. So not unreasonably, the question I am asked most often is, how did you get from film to strategy? And this is likely that you might have an industry that you used to work in, and now you do your new thing. This might be a question you're asked as well. It's your origin story. I thought I had a pretty good answer. So I'll show you mine, and then later on, I'd like you to show me yours, if you will. So I explain it like this. So I say film is complicated and stressful. You work on massive budgets, and the sort of films I was working on, the budget was sort of 240 million-ish. There are huge teams. I worked with teams of about 200 people, very stressed clients, super stressed teams. And every one of those people is paid large sums of money to be right. This gets to be quite complicated and is extremely like working with entrepreneurs. And I thought, that's not bad. That explains why I'm good at strategy, surely. And if they wanted a bit more, I would say film directors have a massive vision and no time. They have less budget than they want, whatever the size of the budget, it's not enough. They have massive direction, pressure from all directions, the studios, the producers, the money people, us in the visual effects team going, no, I don't think I could do that for you. I'm terribly sorry. They're working on three things at once. Every film director works on pre-production, production, that's the live action stuff, and post-production. That means they're working on three films at the same time. Doesn't that sound like an entrepreneur? Like all of that stretched thin, many directions. And I thought, that's pretty good. I'm doing okay. But I realized it isn't that clear, as most people don't have a clue about film. How could they? They've never worked in this sort of environment. And whilst it sounds pretty complex, it isn't as complex. It doesn't sound as complex as it really is. So I would like to show you, hopefully this will work, this 6-second clip from a film I worked on. It's 14 years old. It's not going to impress you. I tell you now, and hopefully it's from Battle LA. Hopefully you never saw the film because it was rubbish. Now I'm hoping, here you go, some helicopters, there's some stuff in the background. There we go. Right. Now, in a normal film, you wouldn't think anything of this. It's an establishing shot. This is Van Nuys Air Base. There are some helicopters. There's some smoke in the actual film. The aliens are attacking. You don't really care. Like, it's just a kind of, what are we doing here? So I'm going to go into a bit more detail on this because I did work on this shot. And what I can tell you is that's a real helicopter. This one is one I built. None of the stuff on the floor existed. All of these planes and people and tanks and helicopters, that didn't exist. Obviously, the bombing from the aliens, that didn't exist. So I'll just play these 6 exciting seconds again. As you can tell, quite boring, but let's go into a little bit of, you see there's a bit of animation from the tanks. There's people running about. Let's go on to exactly what we're looking at here. To make a shot like this, you need all the people on set doing the live action. And that also includes the taxis and the sandwiches and the accountants and the producers. All of those people you've seen a making of, you know those people. You've also got in CG, in my world, in computer graphics, somebody's built models and textured them, and they've painted some of the stuff in the background. There's animation and rigging and lighting. There's visual effects, all that smoke, clouds, motion blur, the cameras that match live action, and there's something we call packaging, which is where we stick it all together so that it goes to the render, which is when you color in the pictures. And then on top of it, we then send it to compositing and we make it look gorgeous. And then, of course, there's all the R&D people. Now, that seems like quite a lot, right? However, I worked in lighting. I ran lighting teams. That means we developed the look of all of those objects. I know more about the CH-46 helicopter than most people who have made it. How light falls on every surface. The ambient, the occlusion, the specular. Never let me look, never let me decide whether or not something needs dusting, because I look at it in a somewhat different way than most people. And then everything is split into different layers and different surfaces. And on top of that, you have 6 or 7 different types of shadow per light, and each light is then rendered out separately. And there's at least 10, if not actually probably about 20 in the shot I just showed you. And each frame, and there are 24 frames per second, each frame has thousands of individual parts. And that's a pretty standard shot. You would not have noticed that. I feel pretty strongly. You'd have looked at it and went, whatever. That was probably 100 people's work for about probably 3 or 4 months. But we had 6 months of dev before that. It's a lot of work. And if there were creatures in that shot, and Cinesight, where I worked, often does a lot of creatures, there's a skin and muscle system. There is hair grooming. If it is a furry animal, somebody has placed the fur on it. And if the animal is moving, the fur is animated. There is dust around the creature's feet. And potentially you have specific lighting for each and every animal, which means different layers, different lighting, different everything. And dealing with that massive amount of data, you have to do quite a lot of work. We call it wrangling to get it onto the render farm so that it works. All of this is, let's be honest, quite a lot. So you spend a lot of time explaining to the client, again, that things are not ready, or they don't work, or it actually broke overnight, or, yeah, I did render it, but I forgot to put the elephants in. My mistake. Sorry about that. Now, when you consider all of this, this is why I'm good at strategy. I make complex things seem simple. If you bring me your complicated thing, I can make it simpler. And this is why masterminds are my preferred choice. They're in my blood because film is all about collaboration. So that's me. I've been saying, oh, yeah, so film's quite like strategy. And people have gone, yes, Liz, and ignored it. I feel that when you actually know a little bit more about this, it's much more clear. So my question for you in the breakout rooms is this. Discuss a skill you have that is helpful to your work that isn't obvious to clients. You've probably got one. It could be a previous job, a previous career. It could be something that you know is fundamental to what you do, but your clients don't know. Like I've not really mentioned the fact that for every single frame of a film, I have been dealing with hundreds of thousands of bits of data and thousands of single frames, and all of those people, all of whom are convinced they're right. So discuss a skill you have that isn't helpful for your work, and then that is helpful for your work that you don't talk about, and then discuss how you can showcase it. Because I believe all of us have something like this in us. It might be as simple as, could be, like I said, a previous job, but it could be that you are a whiz at crocheting. And the fact that you always have to unpick things and do it again has made you weirdly open to things not going right. It could be that you are unbelievably good at wrangling some part of your life. I think there's a lot of places where we just downplay our skill, not because we don't want to share it, but because we haven't actually explained it to anyone. So those are my breakout questions. In fact, that's my little presentation. So I hope when you next look at your those thousands of names rolling past, you think, I have some vague idea of what they do. And let's be fair, like mushrooms, we worked in the dark as well. It was quite overwhelming to large degrees, geeky, but fabulous. So that's it. That's what I have. Jill, back to you.
I feel like we're in a TV studio, and over to you. Roll VT. That was fascinating and quite horrifying at the same time, Liz. Let me just come out of this. Hang on. Because I want to see everybody's faces. So much goes into it. You know, at the end, when you get all the credits, and it's like, are they just asking you to give credit to the tea boy because he made a cup of tea? No, all of those people really did do something on the film.
And more than that, each company that works on a film has a very limited number of those names on the credits. It's actually union mandated, of course. It's Hollywood. Yeah. But that means that the numbers you see on the credits are probably a third less than actually worked on the final thing.
Flipping heck. So they must be responsible for a lot of the greenhouse gases carrying on.
Something like that, yes.
Easy, isn't it? But it gives you a whole new perspective on that kind of thing. And also, as a collaboration, it kind of blows my mind how it gets all hung together. I mean, for me, an orchestra is a lot of people to collaborate together, and it comes out beautifully. But something like that, and there's egos involved and all sorts of things. And yeah, it's incredible. So we have a great question. Discuss a skill you have that is helpful to your work, but isn't necessarily obvious to your clients. So while I'm talking, Erica is madly putting people into groups. There will be one Collaboration Global member who will host the group, and probably 2, maybe 3 other people in that space. And we'll come back afterwards and get some of your feedback and see what your specialist skills are. We'll have 20 minutes in breakouts. There's plenty of time. We don't want to go around the room going, so what is it you do? Because to be honest, we don't really care what you do. We want to find out about your specialist skill. We want to find out what you love doing, what your passion is. Yeah, tell us that bit. That's much more interesting. And who knows, when we're sharing some of that stuff, there might be somebody else in the room that goes, oh, I need somebody that's really good at that. That could be interesting too. So we never do a pitch or 60 seconds or advertise our services as such, because if you have a really good conversation in that breakout room, you're going to stay in touch anyway. You're going to swap LinkedIn profiles and all the rest of it as well. So where is Erica? Erica, are we ready to rock and roll?
We are, Jill.
Excellent. Okay, see you on the other side, guys. You've got 20 minutes.